Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Chase. We're back this week with another video, as usual. New video every week. Thank you very much for everyone who's been subscribing on YouTube. We hit 10,000 subscribers. That's awesome. All right, as usual, we'll get right into it. You know what we do. We're going to cover BTC. We're going to cover S&P 500, ES. And then we're going to recap some of the publicly called winning trades from this week, so I can basically teach you guys what factors go into a winning trade, right? I actually had a lot of people say that they enjoy that segment of it because you basically get to see a winning trade that was called beforehand on Twitter, not called after the fact, called beforehand, and then basically give you guys the reasonings as to why I got in, give you a little bit of the thought process, show you the target, you know, where the stop was, why the stop was there, and basically we'll go through that. All right, so, but right off the bat, we'll get right into analysis. BTC, we know our levels, right? Okay, so we had liquidity above here, right? Daily. And why is liquidity above here? You know, we've talked about this. You know, major players need major levels to be interacted with in order to get into positions. Okay, so we had major liquidity above this level. We take the liquidity, we break down, and if we back up even further, you know, look at this just huge move down, right? And you got to think, look at this candle right here. These candles are fairly inefficient, which means, you know, and here's the thing, you're going to hear people say, oh, inefficient candles fill, right? Like okay, it's an inefficiency, it's going to fill right back up. Okay, that is possible, but typically it's not going to happen right off the bat, okay? You know, we'll start off with some alpha immediately in this video. So here's what you need in order to fill this. In order to fill this, you need repetitive attempts and you need lots of people shorting. Okay, that's what fuels basically a liquidity fill or an imbalance or whatever we want to call it, a void. That's what's going to fill it, all right? So you have attempt one here, okay? It gets sold into, you know, your whales are selling here while everyone else, while all the noobs are buying for breakout, right? And I was trolling. At this point, I was saying, oh, yeah, you know, I hope I get to sell some more spot BTC at 30K. I don't know if I said that, but that's what I was thinking, you know, because people are calling for 30K immediately, like on the very first attempt that we were going to break out, right? And I actually don't want to turn this into a macro thing at all when I just said selling 30K BTC. I'm not focused too much on the longer time frame. If you've been with me over the past year or two, you know that I sold the majority, the large majority of my spot holdings above 55K on BTC and above 3.8K on ETH. You know that from a million different videos, from posts on Twitter. If you've been around, you know that. So again, how does this fill? Well, first we take liquidity, we push into it, people are shorting here. Okay, then we go and take this liquidity above here, okay, people short again. So if we just keep pushing into here, right, okay, we push into it again, we push into it again, and I'm not saying that's going to happen, but just think eventually, you know, and people are greedy, right, so they're shorting, maybe they're not taking profit. They're shorting, maybe they're not taking profit, right, they want new lows or something, which is completely possible, but again, we're not really talking about long-term price targets here. I'm just not a huge fan of longer term macro trading. I talked about this in the last video. You know, by the time, if someone wants to short this, you know, with a stop up there, and I don't even want to put the tool because someone might take it out of context, but if someone wants to short this with a stop up here for new lows or something, I mean, that trade could take months, right? And it doesn't mean that it's the only trade that you have on, but I'm just not personally interested in giving constant thought about a single trade over a certain amount of months where I could literally have, you know, hundreds of trades, right? But by the time Bitcoin moves $10,000 or $20,000 in one direction or another, I might have 200, 300 trades under my belt where someone else is saying, you know, they're showing you a macro view and they're talking about 30,000, but okay, so they've been talking about 30,000, but over the past 2 or 3 videos, I've shown you like 6 winning trades that were publicly called just within here. So why are we waiting for such crazy swings when price is not giving us crazy swings? It doesn't even make sense. Let's trade the local price action. All right, 1 second. So continuing on, let's say that people are shorting this and they're shorting this and they're not taking profit, they're not taking profit, they're not taking profit. Well, eventually if this does start to move up, what's going to happen to those shorts? They're going to get squeezed. And that's how the void fills, is when you have a lot of people who are shorting or something, expecting these new lows, they're refusing to take profit. All of a sudden we squeeze, and that's what it takes. So it takes a lot of attempts at the resistance level. Okay, so you need multiple attempts at the resistance level. You need a lot of people shorting, and then after all that builds up and you come up to test the resistance again, and people get that signal, okay, it's time. I don't know if it's a daily SR flip or what it is. You get a daily close up here maybe or something, and you start to see it legging again past here. Okay, that is when you're like, oh shit, all right, this is probably going to squeeze all the way up through this inefficient price action, all the way to where you're starting to see some previous support that wouldn't have now flipped into resistance. Okay, so support, impulse down through the previous support level, right? You have support here. This is where your very inefficient price action starts to begin. So you have support here, you break down. That's basically the target as to where you would fill to before you start to get into this price action. Okay, so hopefully that's a good start to this video and a bit of teaching, and we're going to get into the rest. But as usual, just want to say big shout out to Prime XBT for sponsoring these videos. Please, you can take 15 minutes out of your day, sign up to Prime XBT, deposit on there, take a couple trades. That's what keeps these videos coming. If you enjoy the education, that's necessary to keep the education coming. Okay, if you are at all confused about utilizing the UI or anything of that nature, just go over to the Everything About ES video, right around 6 minutes or like 5 minutes and 30 seconds, and I walk through the whole entire thing and how to sign up with my codes and everything. Okay, you have to put this promo code CryptoChase in before you activate, otherwise I don't get credit for it. Okay, so do that. That helps. That keeps these coming. If you want to keep learning, yeah, you guys get the point. Okay, and as usual, I spit it to you guys straight. I'm not here telling you, oh yeah, you got to be on this exchange because it's the best, blah blah blah. I give it to you straight. It's what keeps these coming because they pay me to teach you. Okay, simple as that. Sign up over there. Deposit trade. All right, and I'm not saying you got to stay there forever, but just it helps. Okay, so now let's look at local PA. We talked about sort of the thought process behind movement on a larger scale. Well, let's just break down, right? We don't even need this level at the moment, and we'll keep it there. Why not? Doesn't matter. We break down, and daily time frame, right? We talked about this. Daily time frame is really where you want to start. And you could see the respect, right? Like, look at the respect when you move down to the 4 hour. 4 hours is essentially like the daily's partner in crime, right? If we want to put it that way. Once you really feel like you have a grasp of the daily time frame, moving down to the 4 hour can definitely be helpful to refine on levels. You don't always have to stick with the daily level. You can, I'm sweating in here, and I have the air conditioner on. The daily time frame, it can give you great levels to start with, but moving down to the 4 hour, which can be, like I said, it's partner in crime, sometimes you can refine those levels if things aren't working perfectly on the daily or so. The 4 hour is also a good place to look and refine. Okay, but we can see, we have this daily level, and look at this, just look at the respects on the closes. Closes are perfect. Tap there, little deviation here on the 4 hour. Perfect tap, breaks through, tap. Look at this breakdown. Look at all these perfect taps of the daily. Okay, so a lot of people are trying to still figure out their levels from like the 30-minute 30-minute resistance here or something, whatever you want to say. I'm not saying that, but when all you really needed was just the daily time frame. Start on the daily time frame. Okay, so again, you can go back to the other video, daily time frame and liquidity. That'll teach you on that. Okay, these are all recent videos. Just go on my page on YouTube and you'll see them. So what happened recently, right? When we pushed up on this big leg here, let's just mark some stuff out. What did we do here? Liquidity sweep. Okay, what did we do here? Liquidity sweep broke down. Where was the target on that? The target on that was obviously these lows, right? And you're saying, oh, well, how did you know the target was those lows? Well, let's go over here and we can check this one right off the bat, and we can see, okay, optimally looking for something like this. Market participants gambled into the futures open. Okay, so that means this was on a Sunday. Quick pump to stop out the weekend shorts with tight stops above local highs, and then send it down. Okay, we can see I talked about sending it down to these lows, and of course we took profit along the way. But look at this. Okay, you see that high that I had marked out? We go back over to BTC, and we go to the 2 hour, just like the tweet was on. Tweet was on a 2 hour, right? Yeah, tweet was on a 2 hour. And we go over here, and you can see, there you go. So, you know, no bullshit here, tweeting stuff ahead of time. And yeah, that's what it's about, right? Okay, so let's just tighten this up a little bit. And what we're seeing here is we're seeing a downtrend of liquidity taps and downtrend. Liquidity tap, downtrend. Okay, we can mark out another one here. We had, you know, somewhat of an impulse move down, right? And I try to teach you guys to look for these impulse moves down. So we had a little bit of an impulse move down here, and then we would take the high, right? You could have took this high too, no big deal, right? You're still gonna get in very, very cleanly. But we'll just mark this out for now. Either way, this high, this high, this high, doesn't matter. You're rejecting off, but what do you have? You have untested, basically untested, it's not really untested resistance, because your resistance was built up here, but you have sellers in here, right? And the market moved quickly on impulse. The market typically moves quickly on impulse, and other people want a chance to get in. So when price moves up back into here, there you go, look at this. Just, you know, sweeps back below, and you keep going down. And that's what it's been. It's been liquidity run, dump. Liquidity run, dump. Liquidity run, dump. And then we finally hit our final target right here. Now, moving forward and talking about, you know, real time and what could be coming into the future. Actually, we'll just finish this real quick, but just to go over it. Yeah, we had this, you know, basically your liquidity void here. Sellers wanted to, or you know, you'd want to get in if you hadn't had a chance to sell this, right? So you sweep the highs, like I said, you know, quick pump to stop out the weekend shorts. You sweep that. Where's your target? Liquidity to liquidity. Okay, simple as that. Liquidity to liquidity. And then you could see, as I close the majority of this trade out, average of 2 plus 2.3 R. I still believe the original target is possible, but I've become more of a short-term trader lately. In and out trades truly keep my mind at ease, frees me to find the next trade without bias. And that is very true. Okay, and you can just see it sort of play out here and where we started taking profits. In regards to that, and you can see it from like things that I said today on my timeline. I said, you can hear the annoyance in my voice, right? And you're gonna understand what I'm getting to here. But I said the 22.5K sweep was much more enticing before stubborn bulls held price at 22.8K for days, even though anyone with a brain knew that the lows would be swept. Okay, so you could hear the annoyance. I'm annoyed in my tone, and that's why. So you may be saying, oh, well, if you knew they were going to get swept, well, why did you take profits? Well, because I don't want to be sitting around and annoyed. That annoyance was actually just from me having the final 15% of my position open. I was just getting annoyed that we weren't tapping this. I'm like, I'm annoyed here, I'm annoyed here. We break down. Okay, why are we not sweeping? Why are we not sweeping? Okay, we finally swept. So I was getting annoyed by that, and I think is this? No, I had another tweet about it, but yeah, I don't know exactly where it is. But the point is that I don't want to sit around and wait with these trades, because there's new trades that are popping up, and mindset is a huge part of trading, right? It's a huge part. If your mindset isn't on point and you're frustrated, then you're going to perform poorly. And you're going to get annoyed, you're going to lose confidence. All this stuff adds up to just make you perform shittier. And, you know, it's the same in anything. If you play a sport, if you play video games, when you start getting pissed, you typically don't play better. You typically go on tilt, as they would call it in poker, if you're a poker player. So you don't want to go on tilt in trading. And in my opinion, what I've found helps the most for me to not go on tilt is to just take profits quickly. I get in, I get out, and I've found over, you know, the 6-year time or whatever, that's worked best for me. Okay, 1 second. So that's why I was taking profits, even though I knew, and anyone with a brain knew, that this was going to get swept. I mean, I don't know what this apery is in here, right? You know, these idiots who are just buying this up, and hopefully they get stopped out below here. Although I don't really feel like they did. I think these people are just underwater now, and eventually this will fill down towards probably here-ish. That's my thought process. I drew that out on Twitter as well, and I said, we could come back up above a little bit of a bait, right? Maybe even you sweep something like this, right? Or you sweep this, right? It's possible. Like we keep this trend going. Liquidity sweep down, liquidity sweep down, liquidity sweep down, maybe liquidity sweep down. The problem is, I don't think I would necessarily take that, because you're starting to, I want you to think about it in terms of like a tipping scale. And I feel like the scale is, or you could just think about it as the majority of the move. Like, it feels like the majority of the move, and could be on the short side at least, is starting to be more risky to have shorts. Okay, I know I'm a little scatterbrained, but as always, these videos are off the top, guys. I don't rehearse anything or anything like that. We just go with it. So I feel like you already had this move play out 3 times, and this was clean. This was clean. This was a lot of consolidation in here for no reason, in my opinion. So something could be, we could be starting to come into some fuckery, if you know what I'm saying. Things could be getting a little weird in here. Anyway, point being, ultimately I think this fills. I'm not sure exactly how it fills. I don't know if we run a stop real quick, or if we just deviate the level, make people think we're going back up, and then we move down. Really, it's tough to say. If you go back to my previous video about impulse moves and the candle close question, the infamous candle close question, if you check that one, you'll see I talk about, it's not necessarily what time frame the candle closes on, right? It's more about an impulse move. And we haven't seen an impulse below the, essentially, let's just call this the support level, right? Because this is sort of our support, right? We knew there was liquidity below these lows, right? Since there's liquidity below these lows, we know that big players might be looking to interact in this area, transact. And if they're filling right here, so if this is a bait, this could be a deviation, and they're filling, they're getting, because what's happening down here, we talked about this, is a lot of people are probably shorting this, and they're thinking, okay, this is resistance, I short, this is resistance, I short, this is resistance, I short, and it's too obvious. So the big players are using this area to fill their bids, and then they send it back up, they take some profits here or something, and then we start to move back down, something of that nature. I guess that would be my gut thought, okay? That would be what my gut would say. If we did mark like a, let's see, if we did mark like a fib here, yeah, it could align. It depends if you take this high or that high. It could align with like a 618705 retrace. It is possible. But again, we're coming into the weekend, guys. I think ES was choppy as shit today, if I remember right. I didn't really trade much ES today. Yeah, just look at this chop. So I don't feel like there's any great trade opportunity on the horizon for me, okay? I feel like this played out well, this played out well. I didn't short this. At this time, I was shorting ES. I said, and we'll bounce back real quick, but yeah, we won't do this yet. But yeah, so I was shorting ES at this point, and we'll cover that later. That was one of those winning trades that we'll cover. But yeah, I think this will eventually fill. I'm not sure if it scams a little bit first. Really, I guess you just got to keep an eye out for that. And sometimes things just go, right? People ask me, oh, well, what if it just goes? Well, if it just goes, guys. You can't catch every single trade. But rather than looking for a specific candle close or something of that nature, you can look for an impulse move down, all right? And then you look for somewhat of a retracement, right? And that retracement is where you get in. So let's pretend that we get an impulse move down on the hourly, and you have your most previous hourly support level was like right here, right? Like this low. And then maybe you do something like this, and you put in some highs, and you'd be like, okay, well, this is going down. I didn't really get my retest here, right? Maybe it chops a little bit, and it might just go right down. Like I said, it might just go right back down. But this could be your opportunity here to say, oh, okay, look for this sweep these highs straight into this previous support level right here before the impulse down, and boom, there you go. And if if that's not working out and that's not currently something that's occurring in the market, but at the moment that has been pretty clean in the market, those sweeps, so that's the only reason I drew it. But if that's not working out and you get a push, I mean, don't be afraid to just go right in at that point. My suggestion would be, or my advice would be, though, when you play a move like that, just keep the risk low and keep the stop tight. You're either right or you're wrong, right? You're either going to immediately impulse down or they're going to squeeze you. Okay, so you never, in my opinion, you never go for like a short, right? So okay, this is your support, and let's just draw this. So this is your support. Let's pretend we break down on impulse, right? If I could ever draw a fucking straight line. So we break down on impulse, right? And it's coming back up towards here, and you're saying, okay, I want to short this. You don't ever put your stop like up here or up here. It makes no sense. Literally just take the consolidation beforehand and just say, okay, well, here's the high of this consolidation, right? You have a low here. You consolidate. You break down on impulse. You're shorting the retest, right? And you're planning for it to go down to there. You could literally just put your stop like right here, right? It doesn't need to be wide. Don't put a stop up here. Don't put a stop up here. Don't put a stop up here. It's a completely different area of price. You're just asking to be a part of that squeeze, and I know that it's happened to you guys before because it's happened to me before. I'm thinking, okay, well, no matter what, this is gonna dump, right? No matter what this is gonna dump. That's I'm just giving you guys a thought process. I'm not saying that, but I'm thinking, in a trade scenario, okay, quote unquote, no matter what this is gonna dump, I'm gonna put my stop up here. Like, that's so stupid. Okay, you're gonna have terrible risk reward. You're gonna get squeezed. So if you're playing for a breakdown, play a tight stop. If you're playing for a breakout, play a tight stop, low risk amount, okay? Cut your risk in half. Cut your risk to a quarter. Just keep a tight stop and play on low risk, because when you play on low risk, your risk reward is going to be high. If you're playing like a breakout or a breakdown trade, it's going to be a high risk reward, probably like a 5 or a 6 or something, so you don't need some crazy amount of risk in order to get your typical reward if you're typically trading 2 or 3 risk reward trades. Okay, 1 second. All right. So that covers Bitcoin and my thoughts for the short term. Okay, let's move over to ES. And I'll show you guys what I meant here. Okay, so ultimately, let's just delete these levels real quick. Ultimately on ES, right, you had your consolidation down here. You had your resistance before the impulse moved through. Okay, you could also have this marked as here. You could also have this marked as here. I'm just using what the market presented to me. In my opinion, this is your cleanest level. You impulse through it, support, you push up, okay? Here's what I was talking about with the daily time frame and the 4 hour. So you have the daily support before you break down, right? But you're getting a little bit of chop in here. You're getting daily closes below, and if you look at the 4 hour, you're saying, oh, well, are these deviations or what is this? Well, if you go down to the 4 hour, you can see before the real, impulse move began, where was support? It was here, right? Support, impulse move down. Move over here, look how clean it is now. Support tap, okay, move up. People were asking me why I was shorting this liquidity rather than this liquidity or this liquidity. Okay, well, here's the reason for that, and before anything, I'll just show you guys the trade. So I said it's difficult to call for a rejection or SFP because this shit has been up only, but if I was eyeing a local retracement, 4168.25 high is worth watching. Rejection from there could also prompt a BTC short. Okay, so there was your BTC short from that rejection. That's what occurred in here. And then I believe that was the spot. And then obviously, like I said, this is a little bit of a Twitter hedge here. Okay, I won't lie, right? I said it's difficult to call for an SFP or rejection, but I gave you the exact number. Okay, I did give you the exact number and say that eyeing a local retracement, this was the level to watch. Okay, so if you got the balls and if if you're willing to risk in order to get reward, which is what trading is, then you could have caught this one. It is possible, okay? Okay, Sorry, I was getting a ping on something. 1 second. Alright, so let me show you guys what I saw. If we go over to ES, first off, okay, why this level rather than this level or this level? Okay, first off, guys, we were uptrending all day, okay? So this was your session, right? Your session was here. This was the trade in this session, okay? So we were uptrending literally all day. From overnight, it's been nothing but an uptrend. We had no retracement whatsoever, essentially. It was just all legging, okay? And when you go over here, look at all these highs. Highs here, highs here. People always ask me, oh, how do you spot liquidity? Guys, I'm spotting it with my eyes, and I'm spotting it with common sense. And it's not to be disrespectful. It's just an experience thing, I suppose. I don't see what's so complicated about seeing all these highs. Highs here, a high here, a high here, a high here, a high here, high, 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 high. Okay, what's so hard about seeing all those highs? And this is your most high of the high, basically your swing high here. Okay, so this was the level after you're legging all day long. This was going to be the one that was going to reject. Okay, and I just put a limit order above. It was really that simple. Like I said, I did a little Twitter hedge. But as far as as far as my own confidence, when I post to Twitter, I typically try to post ideas. If I'm really confident in an idea, I usually draw it out exactly how I think it's going to go. It certainly doesn't mean you should risk more on it or anything, or try to read between the lines or whatever you want to say. It's not a signal service, right? If it was a signal service, then I'd be charging something. But nonetheless, why else about this trade? Look at all these built-up lows. This was so obvious, and I guess saying it's so obvious is somewhat of a meme because the Twitter post. But just look at all these built-up lows. You had your liquidity over here. I mean, look, could it have ripped through? Did they turn the algo on and just run this thing up the whole entire day? They could, and they did for most of the day, right? But I mean, and where's your target? Your target's obvious. Just look at where's the most obvious low, and before this impulse where there's no other price action. It was just begging to get tapped. Low, 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 low. So just as I took the high over here, from liquidity to liquidity, okay, and that was it. Liquidity to liquidity, boom. There's liquidity there, below there. It taps it. Like I said, I had the level marked. Went in over here. It hit liquidity to liquidity. Perfect tap right off the bat. You could even see the response from the liquidity. It tags my target. Straight to the pip on everything, right? 4168.5, because that's the liquidity. That's above 4168.25, right? That's the liquidity that's above there, 4168.5, and then 4152.5. Why that number? Well, let's look at this low, 4152.75. So one tick below that low, that's that liquidity. Okay, we take whatever the easiest and fastest exit is. Okay, we don't need to try to play for a couple more ticks or a couple more points, or we take the easiest exit. Okay, we're in and we're out and we're on to the next trade. All right. Trying to think if there's anything else. I hear my dog barking in the background. I'm wondering if he's about to come ripping up here. So we covered this. Yeah, I talked about this, right? Or did I talk about this? Yeah, I talked about this. But yeah, overall, the 22.5K sweep, guys, I was much more interested in that like a week ago. And, like I said, the stubborn bulls held the price at 22.8 for no reason for days. ES was doing legs while BTC was doing nothing, right? So while BTC was doing nothing, ES was doing legs. And I wanted BTC, sorry about the dog, I wanted BTC to come down, sweep this shit, so while ES was legging, BTC could leg at the same time. Then we would have been in a situation to get into longs rather than just this, this price action, which was very clean, by the way. I'm more than happy with this price action. I'm not annoyed. When I say I was annoyed that we weren't running these lows because I wanted to get along. But once I started getting these shorts in, it was like, okay, fine, I'll take the short from here. I'll take the short from here, even though I took this short from ES, right? This was just the ES version of BTC. That's why some people call BTC like BTC 500, because we know Bitcoin just follows ES. It's mostly the same, but sometimes it does lag, and sometimes it underperforms, which this week it's just been underperforming to a heavy degree. So, okay, we covered Bitcoin, we covered ES, we talked about this, we talked about this trade, we talked about this trade, and the lows and all that stuff. Okay, we'll talk this final point before we end this video. I say that I opt for partial profit taking rather than moving a stop loss to BE or in profit if a trade's invalidation point has not changed. Price will often come back and retest your level of entry, and that's okay. This trade is not stopped out yet, and you should not. This trade is not yet invalidated, and you should not be getting stopped out. Okay, so that was another thing. People were, questioning, oh, well, why are you taking profit? Why did you take, so we shorted this, right? Posted this one on Twitter. We saw that. They're saying, oh, well, why are you taking some profit here? Why are you taking more profit here? Why are you taking more profit here? Why aren't you just waiting? Well, because, first off, I'm going to take some profit here because with this stop, I still had my stop up here, right? Stop was right up here. So if this happened to come back up and stop me out, well, this take profit would basically nullify my stop out. I'd be, it was going to be like a minus 0.2 R or something. But compared to losing 1 R, that's very little. But I wouldn't be moving the stop just yet because we were still above the daily support level, right? So when we came down the first time, I think it was in this wick. I think it was in here. Yeah, it was in here, okay? So when we came down the first time and I took profit in here, I said, okay, well, we're still above the major daily level, okay? That's where my bias comes from, the major daily level. So we're still above the major daily level. I'm going to lock in some profits here because this could just simply be support and we could go back up. Okay, so we lock in some profits there. And then once I saw that we broke down below the daily level, I started taking a bit more profit along the way just because, like I said, I like to lock in. And I like to, sort of just keep it moving with my trading process. I don't want to sit there and say, okay, 70% of my position is still open, and this thing is just doing bullshit chop and not giving me my target. So, I take another 20% here, I take another 20% here, whatever it was. But at this point, once we broke down below the daily level, and the daily level had flipped into resistance, right? So we see this, and we know that the daily level has flipped into resistance. I moved my stop right into here. No need to have it above the highs, because if it goes above the highs, you're going to get slipped, right? If you did a random pump and you go above these highs, what's above these highs? Stop losses. Okay, so I don't put my stop losses above the high. I put my stop loss like right here, because that way I'm going to get out before everyone else gets slipped up in this area up here. Okay, they're going to get slippage. They're going to lose more. But again, once we had lost the daily level and the daily level had flipped from support here, when the daily level was support, we kept the stop up here, right? But when the daily level and our bias had flipped bearish because we lost daily support and we flipped daily support to resistance, that's when we moved our stop basically towards our break-even price. Okay, hopefully this video has been quite alpha-filled. Please support me on Prime XBT. Use the Everything About ES video if you need to figure out how to use the UI and how to enter the promo code and all that stuff. Thank you guys for 10K subs. Appreciate all you guys, and I hope you all have a great weekend. All right, peace out.